I had to learn from my experience for a long time to stop looking for relationships and start to look within myself to understand not only to get my mindset right, to project out into the universe, to the world of what I want out of a partner. Hello, everybody. This is Philosophical. Welcome to the eighth episode now of Let's Rap. I'm your host for today, whatever time frame you're at right now.
And I'm your co-host Jay Echo. What's good, everybody?
Today we're going to be talking about getting your mind right, which means your mindset prior and during relationships. And this is something that we kind of touched on this a couple times before, and going to be kind of touching on this going forward for a little while. Just talking about getting your mindset when it's prior to being in relationships or dating, exclusivity, even with situations with friends and benefits, and even getting your mindset right during relationships.
Hmm.
Those times when you know if you're at a peak of issues or you feeling like you're not with the right person you should be with, or maybe you're at a breaking point somehow, somewhere, or even positive mindsets to the fact that you're considering stepping it up another level to marriage, future, all of that, all those things. So we're here to talk about that today. Um, we received a lot of questions about this, and just want to kind of talk about this from a man's perspective, and also uh, what what maybe some of the ladies may want to think about this or harbor on this. So we would love responses on both sides on this. So
Yep. Tell us
if
what you think. Tell us what you
yeah,
feel. If you
so
feel like we're both wrong, by all means.
love to hear your thoughts on this. Love to hear all types of different perspectives on this. So we're first going to start on kind of your mindset prior to relationships. So 9 times out of 10, maybe not even 9 times out of 10, your mindset sometimes can be in a place prior to what's going on before. Maybe you just got out of a breakup. Maybe you're trying to get over that breakup. Maybe you're dealing with some baggage within that breakup, and sometimes can be the biggest hurdle prior to a relationship. And I had to learn from my experience for a long time to stop looking for relationships and start to look within myself to understand not only to get my mindset right, to project out into the universe, to the world of what I want out of a partner.
Hmm.
And when you kind of focus on some of the things you want prior to a relationship, positive things, natural things, organic things, it tends to work out in your favor because you can block out a lot of the negativity that you have been dealing with before. We've been harboring before on if you don't like something, it's on you to kind of change that mindset. So
Yeah.
it's it's just one of those things where what you dealt with before, let's say a breakup or many different things I've heard is the fact that a lot of people out here are afraid to commit, are afraid to even date because of you know past child environments. Maybe their father cheated on their mother, maybe their mother cheated on their father, divorce. Um, it could be friendships. It can be the unknown. You can be afraid. You can be scared. And that mindset sometimes, when you go into a mindset out in this world, when you're constantly afraid and fearful, believe me, I've dealt with those type of issues, and it just brings along more stress. It brings along more negativity in your life, and stress and negativity can cause sickness, as you get older. and even more stress. And it's almost a time waster, just about. Well, it is a time waster. It puts you in a place where you don't you become doubtful. And I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that this mindset that I'm pretty sure all of you have been through, uh, it's very unhealthy. And of course, that's easy for me to say because I'm saying it, but I've been through it. We all have, and this is kind of a platform to be able to talk about that. And this is something from experience that I was very willing to talk about because it's tough. It's very tough. Not only compounding of the fact that you got negative thoughts going on in your mind as far as relationships. Real life hits you. So compound that with real life, and it's tough. So my advice towards this topic is to what I call it tabs. Take a breather. You know.
Where's the S?
Oh well. Seriously, there you go. I call it tabs. Take a breath seriously.
Oh, okay.
And for the people that don't know what the S means, it means seriously. Since we got literal people on the podcast tonight.
Mm.
So whatever you may be dealing with, how you cope with that negativity and a negative mindset. Some people go on vacations. Some people just take a breather, just step outside.
I
Um,
mean, I think some people aren't coping. I think that's one thing that needs to be talked about. Like I know there's been a more of a focus in recent years from a lot of people on mental health and everything like
mhm,
that.
mhm,
But I still think there are a lot of people who don't cope with the negative mindset, who don't properly address things like stress, things like negative self-talk, things like, you know, I mean, potential mental illness. Like, I know for me personally, there have probably been points in my life where I have been depressed or been anxious or whatever the case may be.
mhm.
But I never actually, like, one, I never wanted to actually go put in the work because I don't want another diagnosis. Like, who
So kind
does?
of kind of talk about how you got out of that, that place for our listeners, who
I would
maybe.
say the way I got out of that place was I had a great support system.
Mhm,
Um, well, that was number one, but also number two, like I hit a certain point where I was like, yo, I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm
mm,
tired, I'm frustrated, and I'm spinning my wheels in this same place. So I have to do something different. I have to change it up.
okay.
And there was like, I would say my last relationship was a big part of it. Like, my partner at the time, like, she was really big on, yo, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Are you okay?
Mhm.
You say you're okay, but some of the stuff you're doing that's not what people who are okay do,
So do you
stuff
do
like
you
that.
feel like do you feel like this kind of I know we've had this conversation before, but do you feel like a lot of those things she was kind of asking, do you feel like now that you kind of look back and think about it, were you not ready to talk about some of those things?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like,
Mm,
I just like trust and believe when we say like, oh, you have to fix your mindset, we're not saying it's gonna be like a one you flip a switch and then one day you're just like, oh, my mindset is different, I'm good now, we out here in these streets. Nah, it's not that. It's literally like, it was like I said, it was a very positive relationship. It ended for the reasons it ended, but
mhm,
the one of the big things was that we used to say, or I used to say, that we had similar dysfunctions, basically,
Mhm.
and that we both had some things internally that we didn't want to address. But when
Okay.
you're with another person who looks at you all the time and spends a lot of time with you, you it's a huge mirror, and you have no choice but to look at yourself. Well, you can choose not to, but that's usually how you end up in, unhealthy relationships. You ignore all of the things that the mirror is telling you need
Like
to
the red
change,
flags.
basically.
The red flags.
Exactly. You ignore all the red flags. Like,
Now, when you say that, I want to make a caveat here that in relationships, or even prior to relationships, you're gonna have some red flags.
uh-huh, yeah.
It's all about the way, in my opinion, a successful relationship and even a successful marriage for our married couples out there is you're always gonna have stumbling blocks. You're always gonna have red flags. You're always gonna come to a point where you disagree.
Hmm.
And the strength of a couple, a marriage, or even a person, a single person, is how do you deal with those things? Because it comes a point when you start to do the same things over and over and over again and react the same way over and over and over again, you haven't grown. You haven't reached growth.
Yeah.
If you've reached a point where the same things are bothering you, you're reacting the same way, then you got to look yourself in the mirror and come to a level of maturity to the fact that, okay, how can I change this? Because at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's not up to your partner. Your partner is just there to be a support system.
Now, I will add a caveat on top of your caveat, in that, like, we're not saying that if you're in like an abusive situation or something like that, that, what's it called? That that is your responsibility. That
Mhm.
person treating you bad is your responsibility. That's not what we're saying. I think what we are saying,
Now, your actions are your responsibility.
yes, exactly. Your
Yeah,
personal actions are your responsibility, but the actions of the other person, that's not on you.
correct, correct. So we've got to understand that as an individual and also as a couple, your actions are your responsibility. So you having a partner there trying to help you, back to kind of what you were saying, Jay.
Hmm.
You having a partner, asking you, "Are you okay?" Constantly. You don't have to really go into details, but how did that make you feel?
I mean, it was frustrating because,
Mm,
like, I won't speak for anybody else, but for me, like, I try and maintain I'm a low key dude. Like, I like to maintain a very even, disposition. Like, I'm not, like, there are things that will get me hype, and I'll get excited about and all of that sort of stuff. But, I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like, and when usually when I say I'm good, I'm good. Like, that's how I am. But there's also stuff that even I didn't realize that I had suppressed or I had let go of.
oh yeah, yeah. You're not alone in that, man. You're
Like,
not alone in that,
yeah,
and it's very hard to suppress, feelings and emotions and kind of um, negative thoughts like that. It's just it's you're not alone, man. You're not alone when it comes to that. You're not alone in the fact that it happens, man.
oh yeah, and
And I'm learning every day to um just you gotta block that out, man. When you're with the right person, you gotta block that out, man.
but that's the thing though. Like, for me, that's basically what I was doing. Like, I was
Okay.
blocking it out. Like, it was like, yeah, sure, I'm not at my best right now, but if this person needs me, I'm down. Like
And that's good.
like
That's good.
there were there were a bunch of different times when, yeah, I wasn't feeling well, or like I wasn't in the right headspace, but I would try at least to, like, if she was dealing with something, I would try at least to be present. Now let me, make no mistake, there were times when that wasn't happening, because I wasn't in the right headspace. So I wasn't as emotionally available to her as she might have wanted.
Mhm.
But but at the end of the day, I needed and need to address those things at some point, because
Okay.
like my frustrations with like certain things, or my anger at situations, or whatever that may be, sure, I might not blow up, it might not come out of me in that way, but it would still manifest in certain ways, right?
Okay.
So but it wasn't intentional, that's the thing. It wasn't I never went into situations like hoping to cause harm, or to hurt somebody, or to hurt somebody's feelings, or anything like that. Most of the time it was just like, oh, I'm not thinking about it, or like, I'm in my own head right now, so
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not taking the time to consider how you might feel about a certain situation,
So
right?
that makes me think that goes back to the original topic that mindsets can not only make or break a relationship, it can make or break a relationship, but it can make or break you
Exactly.
as
Yeah.
a person,
Yeah. Like
as a person.
the
Yeah,
the what's it called? In a lot of 2020 wasn't a great year. We'll
yeah.
acknowledge that.
It wasn't a great year for anybody.
Exactly. We'll acknowledge that. But one of the things that, like, I will forever look at 2020 as a positive time for me personally, because I did a lot of stuff that positively affected my mindset in 2020. Things like, all right, figuring out what type of person I actually want to be, because, for like I said, for a long time I'm just the go with the flow type of dude, but now
Okay.
it's like you can't really go with the flow, because going with the flow has put you in some not great situations. And
So
even if it's not like
going with the flow to me, I used to have that same sentiment and same attitude. I think going with the flow is one of those situations, and it's different for everybody, to pretty much adapt to any situation that's in front of you
exactly.
or try to adjust.
hmm but
And go ahead.
and that's the reason why I took that mindset. It's like, I
Mm,
want to be able to adapt to any situation.
which
But
which which could be dangerous because
exactly.
if it gets to a point where it's too much, we as men we take it on.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
mindset I had was, oh, I need to be able to adapt to any situation. And by all means, we all need to be able to adapt. I'm not saying that that in and of itself is a bad thing,
Correct.
but you also have to take into account, are you adapting to the right stimuli, if that makes
Mm,
sense? Because, like, you shouldn't adapt to, for instance, an abusive situation. Like, don't adapt to that. Get out of that.
okay.
But if you keep that mindset of, oh, I have to be able to adapt to any situation, which is kind of what I was doing. Like, yo, this, sure, I don't like how this makes me feel, but you know, I need to suck it up and deal with it, because this is just what it is.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
that's how I say, like, my frustration and how I was feeling was coming out in different ways, because it was like, yo, I may not necessarily like this situation, but this is the situation I'm in, and I need to suck it up, because there's not, like, because this is the situation, right?
Yeah.
And 2020 was like 2020 was, I call it my 2019, 2020, that sort of period
Yeah.
was my come to Jesus moment where it was like, yo, you've done your absolute best to try to adapt to situations that weren't right for you, that weren't good for you, that weren't healthy for you, and now you're here and you don't like where you are. So you have to start establishing some level of control. You need to take control. You need to take responsibility over
Hmm.
yourself, over your life. Otherwise, you're going to keep finding yourself in these positions. And, like, I don't know about you, but I'm trying to be successful. I'm trying to be like, I have goals, I have dreams, I have aspirations. And I'm not going to go with the flow my way to those things,
Understood.
you know, and my mindset had to change, and it's still changing as things go on right now. Like the fact that I'm able to have this conversation with you, as opposed to I wasn't able to have this conversation with anybody like 2 years ago, is a little bit of the growth I've experienced, but there's still a lot more to do, and there's still a long way for me to go. And I think the only reason I came to that was, one, because I was willing to do some self-reflection, and two, because I had the right person and the right people in my life to show me that that's what I needed.
So, in my situation, man, I look at it from a point where I used to wake up taking on everybody else's problems
Hmm.
instead of taking care of my own. So I looked at it at a perspective of, if I take care of their problems, they will treat me and acknowledge me the way I needed to be treated and acknowledged.
Oh, I did similar things. Yeah. Yeah.
So, instead of putting myself first, which I had to learn the hard way, I would put others in front of me to do things for others before I would do them for myself. And that caused me to not only resent them, but resent myself, to the fact that that person may not have been doing it intentionally, but they're not supporting me or even motivated me to say, you know, I don't need those things in my life, or to say, what you're doing, you know, just be yourself. And I had to learn the hard way, to the fact that when you're with somebody and you can't be yourself and you're constantly catering to someone else's feelings and emotions, that could be, I could say, for me, it could be borderline suicide. It can cause a lot of mental issues. It can cause you to stress, lose sleep. You know, when you're constantly catering and being uh, in tune with someone else's feelings and not your own, you lose sight of who you are. You lose sight of what you need. You lose sight of what you would like, because you're catering to what everybody else wants and needs. And your mindset has got to be, yes, you got to constantly adapt. You got to constantly evolve as a person. But I used to feel, like thinking of myself was being selfish.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. Being selfish is making a hasty decision without. Now, if you're single, hey, you're in full control of your life. But if you're in a relationship, or you're married, or you're a parent, single parent, or even a parent, cohabitating in a relationship, I just feel like, if you're making decisions outside of that affects your family, and you don't have any regards for that, that's selfishness to me. Selfishness is not considering yourself. before, your partner, to the fact that you're constantly thinking about the things you need. And when you kind of come to an understanding of things you need and you want out of a relationship within reason, it'll help you grow in other aspects of things you didn't know that you had an issue with. Communication,
Mhm.
being able to understand somebody else's feelings, emotions, being able to cater to someone else's feelings and emotions to the point where it's reciprocated back towards you.
Yeah.
You know what I
The
mean?
one counterpoint I want to make to that is that, yes, you should always take your family and your partner and all of that stuff into account, but you know, also make sure you are taking care of yourself. I think that's one thing that we need to do. I'm not saying that self-sacrifice, like being willing to sacrifice, isn't a trait that you should have. That's not what I'm saying. But I think, and we've heard a lot about this, and a lot of people, some people feel some type of way about hearing it, but self-care is an important thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have to, like that goes, I mean, self-care isn't selfish.
No.
So like being like, if you need to take time out for yourself, as long as you're letting people know, like, yo, you, daddy needs to play Xbox for a couple minutes because he wanted to fight somebody at work today. As long as you're letting people know that, and you're not just jumping into your basement, closing the door and telling everybody, don't talk to me for the next 3 hours. Like, as long as people know,
Yeah.
then you're well within your rights to do that. But I think that's part of the whole communication thing and the toxic masculinity thing of, like, for a long time, a lot of men, well, a lot of people, period, but men especially, were not comfortable having that conversation with people. It's like, yo, like, I need some time to myself because I had a rough day. It's
Yeah.
okay to say that. But if you're just like, don't talk to me, then everybody's like, yo,
Man, I
what did
tell
we
you right
do?
now, that's one of the most misconceptions of a relationship.
Hmm.
You living with someone, or even you're dating someone, and your feelings and emotions are in tune with that person, and you coming home, that's the one of the hardest things to do. And sometimes I recommend not doing that in some situations, because if you have a great support system at home and she supports you and she's understanding and in tune with some of the your feelings and emotions, she will understand how you feel right when you walk through the door.
I mean, that's a good thing, but
Yeah.
like we've said a couple different times, a couple different ways, like, you closed mouths don't get fed.
That is
Sure,
correct too. That
it's
is correct too.
great. It's great if you have that support system or that relationship where you walk in the door and she automatically knows you had a bad day. So she's like, up, daddy's not feeling it right now. So you know what? We're gonna go read for the next couple hours while daddy gets his mind right. Like, it's cool if you have that relationship. But at the end of the day, nobody's in your head. Like, you have to, even if, and I'm saying this as much to myself as I am to everybody else, because I assumed a lot of times that, oh, she knows what I'm feeling, because I was just like, yo, I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm not trying to have this conversation right now. Chill.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I would say that, but at the same time, she was like, that doesn't give me enough information. Like, are you tired? Are you angry? Is it just this specific conversation you don't want to have? Are you just not trying to talk, period? Like, I understand that's a lot of extra steps, but at the same time, that's what she needed. And I'm talking about my relationship personally. But in your situation, it might be different. She might, or he might be like, nah, I'm just not feeling it. And you're like, cool, I'm gonna go do something that I wanted to do anyways. You take care of yourself. I'll come check on you in 15 minutes. If that's your relationship, cool. By all means, do your thing. But like what I have found personally is that 8 times out of 10, she'd rather hear exactly what I need in that moment as opposed to having to where is Waldo the situation and figure out exactly what's going on,
Hmm.
right? And the slight transition, like I think that goes back to the what's it called? The mindset you have to have going into an actual relationship. Like for me, my mindset was what's it called? I've done all this personal work outside of the relationship. So obviously I'm cool. I can just come in, be me, and everything's gonna work out. But the work the
Yeah.
work didn't stop when I got in a relationship, or the need for work didn't stop when I got into the relationship. The amount of work I had to do increased when
Yeah.
I got into a relationship.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not a bad thing per se. It's just when I got into relationships prior, like I didn't consider that. It was
Mm.
just like, yo, I'm here. My presence is a blessing. What's good?
Yeah.
and and I think that's the mindset that a lot of people take into their relationship. Like, oh, I'm here, I'm great, and this is the goal, basically. I'm in the relationship. The work is finished, the work is done. I can do my victory dance, and we'll ride off into the sunset together, but that's usually not what it is.
So, what are your thoughts on just so what's your mindset before dating? Are you telling the audience to prepare yourself? How would you tell the audience to kind of prepare, themselves to a point where it's like, you know, don't look, it'll come to you. Or, these are some
I think
areas.
I
Go ahead.
think what's it called? There's two I think there's a couple things that we need to talk about when we're talking about, your mindset before dating. I think one, we need to address the fact that there is a lot of pressure on men as well as women to end up in a relationship. Sure, there's less pressure in some ways and more pressure in others. Like I'm we'll say I'm in my midlife right now, right?
Okay.
And I've definitely had people, at family functions and everything like that say, "Oh, when's the wedding, or when's the baby coming, or whatever the case may be." And it's like, "Yo, I'm just chilling right now. Like we ain't even there yet. Let's pull back a little bit, you know?"
Okay.
And now, what's it called? Now that I'm single, I definitely feel the pressure to be like, "Yo, I'm not out here dating. I'm not reaching out to people. I'm not talking to anybody right now." It's like, "Yo, what am I doing? I need to get on this because, if I don't get on it now, then I'm going to be in my 40s by myself, you know, looking real suspect to people when I walk into families. So you just chose to be by yourself?" Like I've had that I've had that conversation before. Like, "Oh, why aren't you with anybody?" So I
So
think
do you think it starts with kind of the mindset of how you kind of walk out the house, kind of the way you perceive yourself as a person?
I think self-perception is a big thing. Like,
Mm,
'cause for me, right now, I'm still working on this, but like I'm still working on like methodology and stuff like that. But right now, my main goal is to be the best version of me that I can be.
yeah, that's really
Right?
that's really all you can be. Be you,
Exactly.
you know?
is to be
and and find someone that will bring out the best in you just as much as you'll bring
exactly,
the best in them. That's the key.
exactly. Because one thing that I found in not only this past relationship, but in relationships prior is like if you're focused on your walk, on your journey, on whatever the case may be, people are going to show up who are willing to support you in that. Whereas if you're out here just looking for somebody, all that's really going to happen is you're going to find somebody who's looking for their support system basically. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing, but I'm saying like you're not prioritizing your own needs, and you will carry that mindset into the relationship if you're not focused on your own journey.
Mm,
So
okay.
for me, the biggest thing even before my next relationship is, yo, make sure that you are good. Like the rest of it will come. You ain't got to worry about the rest of it. But as long as you are doing the right things that you need to do for you, the rest of it will show up. So, well, I'm not saying there aren't cold, lonely nights where I'm like, yo, like, Lord, send me somebody. Like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that that doesn't happen because it does, but but there are more moments for me these days where it's like, yo, I had a very productive day. Like I had a good day on my job. I was able to save some money or whatever the case may be. Like the positive stuff that I'm supposed to be doing, like that, it doesn't give you the same happiness, but it does bring you happiness. It might
Mm,
not be the same happiness that you get out of, coming home to your person, and it's like, oh man, this is where I'm supposed to be. But I've had more moments recently just in pursuing my career goals and pursuing my personal goals where I'm like, yo, I'm supposed to be here right now. Like this is what's this is the exact place I'm supposed to be.
and the crazy thing about it is, sometimes that mindset tells you the negativity I call it the non-productive mindset tells you that you're not supposed to be there.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I still deal with imposter syndrome. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't go away, but there are moments, and they're increasing little by little, where I'm just sitting there and doing something, working on something, and it'll be something small, like I don't know, like I finally understood something that I was studying, where it's like, yo, this is what it is. This is what it's supposed to be. Like I'm supposed to be right here, right now, doing this. This is what it is. And
Mhm.
I'm having more and more of those moments than I'm having the God, I'm alone right now.
So, kind of give your final thoughts on it, man. Like, give your advice, give your final thoughts, and kind of the mindset of outside of being an outsider, maybe looking for a relationship, and the insider of being in a relationship, the type of mindset.
um, so my final thoughts, I guess, are whatever you're doing, and this is something that I told myself while I was on my like through 2020, is strive to be the best that you can be no matter what you're doing, right? As long as that thing is positive. Like I'm not telling you to strive to be the best that you can be if you're a serial killer. Like, nah, you need to go to jail. But but like as long as you are positive, pursuing something positive, strive to do strive to be the best that you can be at that thing, whether it's okay, I'm trying to do the best I can at my career. I'm trying to do the best I can in my fitness. I'm trying to do the best I can in my hobby, whatever it might be. And carry that into when you get into a relationship. Now, you may not necessarily know how to be the best you can be in those areas, but if you're striving to be the best, then you will look for ways to be the best. Like you'll do your research, you'll look for tools, you'll look for tips on how to improve in certain situations, right? Like I didn't come to this place like the where I am right now, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, so don't take it that way, but I didn't come to this place just by, you know, showing up. Like showing up is half the battle, but showing up is still only half. You
Mm.
also have to be willing to do the work when you show up. Like perfect example, like in 2020, I did two cybersecurity boot camps concurrently, meaning I was in both at the same time. For those who don't know what concurrently means, um, and when I tell you it was one of the hardest things that I have done in my life, the amount of stress, the amount of exhaustion, just the amount of headaches, the lack of sleep that I went through trying to get that done. And, you know, it evened out later on, but at the same time I enrolled in these two boot camps, I was also doing technically two jobs, you know.
Mhm.
When I got into the first boot camp, I had to drop the first job, and then because of the pandemic, I had to let go of the second job, or the second job closed down basically. So it all worked out, but I was trying to do all of those things at the same time, and it was it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. Like the amount of stress, like all of that work that I had to do ended up paying off in the end because it forced me to give everything. Like I couldn't show up halfway for any of that stuff.
Mhm.
I had
Mhm.
to be on top of my schedule. I had to be on top of my classwork. I had to be on top of everything. Otherwise, I would have dropped like I was juggling so many balls at that time and I couldn't, you know, but I knew also in that moment that if I let go of any of those balls, it would be detrimental. Now, fortunately, situations worked out in which like my schedule evened out and all of that sort of stuff, but that's why I say it was a come to Jesus moment for me because in my mind, like somewhere deep down, I knew I had to go through it.
Mm.
I had to struggle. I had to fight. I had to learn. Otherwise, I would end up in the same place. And I couldn't be in that same place. Like I refused to be in that same place. And that's the mindset that I think we need to have in situations. Now, don't stress yourself out as much as I did by all means. Like, you know, have a balance. But there are going to be points in your life when you have to live an imbalanced life, whether it's in your career, yo, you have to put in those extra hours, whether it's in your relationship, yo, we're struggling right now, so I have to like we have to go to therapy or we have to make time and make space to have difficult conversations every night or every so often, whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Like that's and carrying that mindset is what's brought me to where I am right now. It's what's brought me to being able to share some of this stuff. It's what's brought me to being able to, you know, even if situations aren't going the way I want to adapt to the situation, to change, and still maintain my sanity and my health. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
those
So,
are my final thoughts, I guess.
well, I mean, it's been a lot of rain this week for Jay. um, so we really appreciate again a lot of the listeners, a lot of the support. Continue to grow with us, this journey. Um, so we say thank you so much for this. We're continuing. We're now on the 8th episode, so we've been going for about a month strong. We're
Yep.
going to continue up the series. Be sure to follow us on our Twitter, which is Let's Rap 2, our Instagram, which is Let's Rap underscore, and YouTube, which is Let's
Let's
Rap
rap.
YouTube page. And I'm your host, Philosophical. And
And I'm your
uh,
co-host, Jay Echo.
we got a great interview episode coming very soon. Can't wait for this. This is hard work in the making.
Yep.
Really hope you guys enjoy this and really appreciate all of you guys and continue to have your feedback. And we continue to be on here and rap and have a discussion like men are supposed to.
Yep.
And I'm Philosophical and I'm signing out. Peace.
Take it easy, yo.